Hey people of the VC, this is Andy Cloudy Mulder. Today's video, which you can tell from the title, is my Thrash metal collection from 1988. This video has been completely and utterly inspired by Darcy 6 Strings 9 Lives. Darcy, a good friend of mine, he showed off his top thrash metal albums from 1988, and it got me pulling out albums. I've not been on a thrash metal kick for a while. I did the top thrash metal debuts with the Contacting Blood Crew a few weeks back, and I've kind of laid low on thrash since then, but this got me right back in. 88 was such a fantastic year for thrash, and yeah, as I say, I started pulling out some albums from 88 and figured I would show you what I've got. There's a little bit of an overlap. In fact, there's quite a bit of overlap. I think there's about 12 albums that Darcy and I both own, but he had a handful of albums that I don't have myself, and I've got a few albums that he didn't show as well. I'm not necessarily going to go into what he had versus what I had. His video you have to go and watch, so I will leave a link below. So in 1988, I was 17 years old, and I wasn't buying a lot of albums at the time. Most of the music that I picked up around 88, 89 would have been things I taped off others. I was 17 years old. I discovered beer and go to pubs with my mates, and that's where my money went. Completely ill-spent youth, no doubt. So most of the albums you're going to see here today are things I've picked up in the last 7 or 8 years when I've been focusing on vinyl again. There are 2 or 3 in here which I did have in 88, and the first one I'm going to show is more of an honorary mention, I guess, and of course I haven't put it out to the front. There we go. It's a compilation. Roadrunner presents Stars on Thrash. This album, compilation album, was my introduction to a lot of bands, and you'll see a few of these albums in here. But so this was actually released in 88. However, quite a few of the albums that have tracks are from 1987, so you won't necessarily see them. But there's Flotsam and Jetsam, Mucky Pup, DRI, Pestilence, Toxic, Paradox, Stormtroopers of Death, Acrofet, Gothic Slam, Slayer, Sacred Reich, Snow White, Cat, the Great Cat, Atrophy, and Hades. These are all the albums, obviously, from the back catalogue of the bands on the album. This is one of the most influential compilations in my collection. I sought out bands based on the songs that were on this album, and I have sought out vinyl copies of some of these bands in the last 7 years as a result of getting back into vinyl and having the funds diverted from the beer to, well, I can afford the beer and the vinyl now, so it's a win-win situation for me. So Stars on Thrash is a fantastic compilation, and it's always available cheap, and if you find it, I thoroughly recommend you pick it up. So let's go into, I'm going to do this in a random order. This is not my top 10 or top 20 thrash albums from 88 at all. It is purely a walk through what I have, and I'll let you know my thoughts on them as we go through. Some of us are classics, and some are well, at least one is not a classic at all. But I'm going to go straight with one that I did have in 88. MOD, Method of Destruction, Surfing USA. I bought this on the back of Stormtroopers of Death. I loved this album at the time. Being a teenager, I thought it was fun. It was hilarious, and God, Mr. Ufus, Sergeant Drexel theme. It's goofy, it's funny. I could barely listen to it now, to be honest with you. I don't think it's necessarily aged well, or maybe I haven't aged well. That's probably the problem. Let's have a look. What should we do next? How about some UK thrash? Toranaga, their first released Bastard Ballads. It's more of a mini LP, really. 6 tracks on here. Really, really good stuff. I don't know if they're still going, but they did release an album in 2013. Had a very, very strong Testament sound to it. But these guys were pretty good for UK thrash back in '88. A lot of people's favourite Testament album, The New Order. Not mine. I do prefer the Legacy and Practice What You Preach above this one, but it is a solid slab of thrash metal. It's a staple for most people's collection. So I'm not going to deep dive. What should we go for next? Megadeth. You're all expected to see this one as well. So far, so good. So what? This was my introduction to Megadeth. I had this one on one side of a C90. I've even got Anarchy in the UK as a shaped picture disc 7-inch single. I hate that song. I think it's a terrible cover version. But Set the World Afire, Mary Jane I love, In My Darkest Hour, Liar. Great. A classic. Flotsam and Jetsam, No Place for Disgrace. Second album after Jason Newsted had left the band. Again, dodgy cover version. Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. I don't know why thrash bands got sucked into that game back then, but another classic that you will all know out there, as is Death Angel, Frolic in the Park. I didn't know much about Death Angel in the 80s, I have to say. I didn't have anything by them at all. They're a band that I've really sort of reconnected with over the last 10 years or so. Again, there's a dodgy cover on here as well. Isn't it? Cold Gins on here. Yeah. But the rest of it, fantastic album. Brilliant follow-up to the Ultraviolence. And as Darcy mentioned in his video, so you know that he showed this one, every album they did was just, it was different and it's unique in its own right. And that's one of the things about Death Angel that really stood out. Now, let's go for something a little bit more obscure, maybe. Warfare. Been on a big Warfare kick recently. Now, this album is very different. This is unique in all of the albums that you're going to see here today. This is a conflict of hatred, obviously from 1988. There's no other thrash album like this. On here, you get saxophone, keyboards, poetry. You even get a bit of Vera Lynn at the end. But it's full on thrash too. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great thrash album, but I don't know if you call it experimental. There's only saxophone on one track, and it's the first track, and it's almost like the first thing you hear after a little instrumental intro, and then this saxophone comes in, and you're just thinking like, what am I listening to? But in the end, it's a fantastic album. Mantis from Venom plays on this as well, and the Warfare and Venom have always had a really strong link together. Hate to Create is a song well worth checking out. Very, very different from some of their earlier stuff, but Warfare, to me, they never failed to disappoint. Now, this is one that I'd heard of from the Stars on Thrash comp. This is Hades, If at First You Don't Succeed. This cost me $9.99. I bought this from the Armageddon shop in Boston, USA. I was working out in the Boston area quite a few years ago now, and I met up with some VC dudes there, Rob from Boston, Rob Paniques, Bitbot Boom, and Helmut Diggy, who used to do videos, and we went out to a few record shops in Boston, and this is one of the ones that I found and grabbed as soon as I saw it. The song's Opinionate. The first track on here is the one from Stars on Thrash, but this is really, really fantastic album. I've just listened to it now. In fact, that's why the cover's so bendy, because the record's still on the deck. and I've forgotten how good it is. The vocalist has got one of those sort of falsetto thrash metal voices, a bit like Joey Belladonna when he goes up for the highlights. Not as good a singer as Joey Belladonna, but something just a little bit different, and a really, really solid thrash metal album that I'm going to listen to side 2 straight after doing this. Also on that dig, and this was actually VCLT from Bill Helmut Biggie, is this Sonic Plague. Now this is a band that Bill he was friends with the members of it, and there's a story that my brain's a bit foggy now. I think it was something to do with he lent them his shoes for the photo shoot or something. But yeah, Sonic Plague, it's on Anthrax Records. It's well worth seeing the label for this one because it looks like a real sort of DIY effort. And this is absolutely tremendous album. If you only check out one album that you don't know from this video on YouTube after you've watched it, check out Sonic Plague, What's the Purpose? It's a freaking amazing album, this. I've just spun it again tonight, and I've forgotten how good it is. And I do that with this album. I probably play it once a year, and then I text Bill after and tell him what a great album it was. They are from Connecticut. It's very tight thrash metal. The production as well seems really, really rich. It's got a great sound to this album. It was only ever released on vinyl as well. Brilliant. Check this one out, please. Sonic Plague, What's the Purpose? Sacrilege BC, Too Cool to Pray. Now these guys were originally called Sacrilege, but they had to change their name because of the UK thrash band Sacrilege, and they are from, I have to write this down, Berkeley, California. Hence the BC. They were formed in 1984. This is their second album. Songs to check out. I mean, they've got a nice sort of dirty looking thrash metal vibe to them, haven't they? Songs to check out on here is Party with God. Great song. So I'm going through these really super quick because there's a lot, and I don't want to... let's do a CD next. Very much like Darcy, very, very late to the Forbidden Party, and I literally only picked this up in the last year. Heavily influenced and goaded by Mark G with a C to check it out, but I've not looked back since. This is a phenomenal slab of thrash metal, and it should be in everyone's collection. The other CD that I pulled for this is some UK thrash as well. This is Holisade and Hell House. This is a Dive Bomb reissue. It has some great extra bonus tracks, Neat Records demos, and Radio 1 rock show sessions. That would be a Tommy Vance Friday rock show. But the actual album itself, glare, is tremendous. Dive Bomb do a fantastic job with these reissues. I've got a few in my collection now, and there you go. There's Philip Dessard there. Now these guys, Holisade, have an album coming out this year. I've got it on pre-order because I'm dying to hear what they sound like now. So, but in 1988, UK thrash. A lot of the UK thrash I've only discovered in the last few years as well, since I picked up the Contract in Blood book and CD set, and I dived headfirst into discovering UK thrash and seeing what I missed out in the scene at the time. And Holisade are one of the better ones. More UK thrash. Virus, probably better known. This is Force Recon. I saw Virus on their 30th anniversary tour of this album, and they're still kicking it. It's only Coke McFinley, I think, is the only original member of the band now, and where he was the lead guitar on here, he does the vocals now as well when they tour. They've had an album out recently as well. This is their second album, and again, a solid slab of thrash. Viral Warfare, brilliant. Force Recon, the title track, absolutely fantastic. Viral Warfare is actually an instrumental, and I think thrash metal is one of the only metal genres where I enjoy instrumentals, because quite often thrash songs can be quite long, and there's a long instrumental between verses anyway, so I think it really does work. But do check out Force Recon, the title track from Virus. Violence, Eternal Nightmare. Again, super late to the party. I'd never even heard of these guys before I started watching VC videos, and boy had I missed out. This is one of the best thrash metal debuts of all time. Buy it, listen to it, do what you can, get a copy of this. Fantastic. Without a doubt, this album I'm going to show you is one of my favourite albums of all time. And it may well surprise you. I wouldn't even necessarily say it was my favourite thrash metal album. They are classed as a thrash band, but they've got so much more to them. That's Suicidal Tendencies and How Will I Laugh Tomorrow When I Can't Even Smile Today. This record has stayed with me. This is my original copy from the 80s. And I have played it. I've had downloaded copies. I've had a CD. And even when I wasn't listening to that much metal through sort of the early 2000s, I would still play this album. It's a really feel-good album for me. Trip at the Brain, Hearing Voices, Pledge Your Allegiance, How Will I Laugh Tomorrow, If I Don't Wake Up, Sorry, 1 Too Many Times. It's a 10 out of 10 album for me. I cannot stress how much I love this album. But I still probably wouldn't necessarily say it was my favourite thrash metal album of all time, because I just think it's very, very melodic. It's a thrash album, but it's not necessarily an album I would pick out to define thrash metal, but it's an album I'd pick out to define me and my music taste. Slayer! South of Heaven. The album that Slayer clicked with me. Really, the first 2 or 3, up to Rain and Blood, I didn't get it. Certainly for a long time back then, it was loud, it was fast, it was ferocious. Didn't get it. I heard South of Heaven and I was thinking, oh man, I do like this a lot. And I went back, and slowly over the years I've become accustomed to the other albums. I do like them a lot, but South of Heaven for a very, very long time was my favourite Slayer album. It's touch and go now between this and Seasons of the Abyss, but I will always have this album in my collection, and I will play it. If I want to listen to some Slayer, I tend to think about the likes of this album and Seasons. So fantastic album. You can see this is all 1988. This is just, what a year for music. Sacred Reich, never a band that's particularly excited me. I saw them live when we could see bands live a year or so ago now, probably 2 years ago now, and they didn't interest me. They were supported by Night Demon. Night Demon blew them off the stage. But I do like this EP. This is Live at the Dynamo. This is the wrong one. Sack the production guy. Honestly, you guys come here for a professional outfit, and what do you get? You get the wrong album pulled. It's supposed to be Surf Nicaragua, the EP, not the follow-up live at the Dynamo. And I'm back. The phone decided to cut off. The phone was so disgusted I pulled the wrong Sacred Reich album. It just decided to die on me. But there we go. I'll splice that back together as we go before I upload. Surf Nicaragua is my go-to album for... It's not even an album, it's an EP, isn't it? For Sacred Reich, and one of the songs isn't even there. So it goes to show just how high a regard I show Sacred Reich. I wasn't impressed with the new album at all. Thought it was a bit dull, boring, repetitive. But, they've got their place in thrash metal history. Don't hate me. Justice for All are one of the thrash metal classics. Maybe a lot of people's favourite from '88. Maybe even mine. I hate doing top 1s, 2s, 3s, 10s, or what have you, because it just depends on the mood I'm in as to what I like, and it can change on a weekly basis. But I do love Injustice for All. I saw them on this tour. I thought they were absolutely amazing. The whole thing about the bass, because we've got to mention that, haven't we? Every time I think it's really annoying, because people talk about how much better it would have been, but then again, it's still their #1 album, so get over it. It sounds brilliant. I love it, and maybe if it had all the bass on it, it probably would just be just as good, and we wouldn't be talking about it. But that's what we talk about when we hold up this album. We talk about the bass, not necessarily about just what a brilliant album it is. Blackened and Justice for All, One, The Shortest Straw, Harvester of Sorrows, Dyer's Eve, The Frayed Ends of Sanity. Oh, I love it. I love it. I also love Anthrax, State of Euphoria. I've always loved Anthrax for being that thrash metal band that did things just a little differently. They are the one thrash metal band in the history of all thrash metal bands. And you're probably going to tell me about another one after this, but they had someone who could actually sing. It wasn't just throaty, raspy, guttural, false falsetto style voice. Joey Belladonna can sing, and he's got a great set of pipes, and he still has a great set of pipes, and that's what made Anthrax different from everybody else. And absolutely love it. So this is also an original from 1988 in my collection. In fact, it is the one I skipped school on the morning it came out. Got to the record store super early, because I thought there would be a queue outside Spillers Records to get this. I was the first there, funnily enough, and I was there a good half hour before it opened, and the guy looked at me like I was crazy. Anyway, I grabbed it and I jumped on the bus and I went back to school, and told everybody about it, and nobody cared because no one else was into metal like I was at school. So, but still got the copy. Still love this album. Is it my favourite Anthrax album? No, far from it. But it's the first Anthrax album I bought on release day, and I'll always cherish it. Fantastic stuff. I'm finally going to do this one next, because if I was doing a ranking video, this one would come out way at the bottom. This is Lost It All by Adversity, and Darcy. This is a Canadian thrash metal band, and they are not very good at all. It was a blind buy. I saw Canadian thrash and I went for it, and they're classed as crossover thrash. They're from Vancouver, and the vocalist, there is a bit of hardcore crossover thrash in there, but the vocalist sounds like he's trying to be a cross between Mike Muir on the first Suicidal Tendencies album and Billy Milano off SOD album, and it just doesn't work. I stuck it on tonight. I managed to get through a side, but after that I put on something else. Not a good album at all. Ironically, the first song is called Wasted Life, and it kind of felt that's what I was doing when I was listening to it. But never mind, we live and learn. We all have blind buys, don't we? Last two. Acid Rain, Moshkinstein. Mini LP, 6 tracks. But 6 tracks, but there's 7 minutes, 6:48, 6:43. It's probably longer than Raining Blood. Great, fun, young guys having a great time playing thrash metal, living the dream, and completely bypassed me back in the day. I've talked about this before. I did meet, I think it was either Kev or Gaz, one of those two, was going out with a girl at my school I met him at an Yngwie Malmsteen concert, and they left straight away as soon as it started because they thought it was shit. And but I loved it. It was a great show. Yes, I have rediscovered Acid Rain in recent times, and I've got everything of theirs on vinyl now, and I love it. Great band, and did them a real disservice by just dismissing them, thinking they were a jokey band, and UK thrash wasn't up to much. Shame on me. And the last one of the bunch, and this goes all the way back to the first album I showed, The Stars on Thrash. When I started collecting vinyl again, one of the first albums I sought out was Snow White and Act of God, because the song, let's just do it for comparison here. The song Baptized by Fire is on here, and I've always loved that song, and I hadn't heard much more Snow White, Act of God. Hadn't heard much Snow White, and this is a phenomenal thrash metal album. To the Last Breath, Baptized by Fire, War Machine, Thunderdome, Disease Bigotry, and Something Wicked This Way Comes is a haunting masterpiece to end any album on, and does this one complete justice. So there we go. That's my complete 1988 thrash metal collection. Such a great year, and there are a few glaring omissions, as you probably screaming at me right now. So do let me know what your favourites are from 1988, and which ones that Overkill is clearly missing, and a couple more that Darcy showed as well. Check out Darcy's video. Hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you again soon. Cheers.